Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. So a few exciting milestones. My channel's gotten over 50 subscribers. I thank those who've subscribed, and I'm humbled by everybody who's following along and coming back and taking a look at what I've got to offer. And I'm also excited to offer my first map tour. With FS22, I've decided I'm going to try to keep up with maps that at least catch my attention with their initial description, to see if they might be worth a look, and then go through them with you and give you my impressions. And ultimately, as with the theme of my channel, the impressions are really going to hinge on, is the map mature enough to catch my attention and be usable, or are there enough problems that I may stay away? Now, that does not mean that it's necessarily a bad map for you. You may have a different style of gameplay or a different focus, but I will be giving my impressions once I wrap up each map tour. So let's begin. So we're here on Graystone Farm. This map, according to the modder large H mapping, is set in Rockingham, North Carolina, which is in the eastern part of the United States. So when you spawn into the map, this is the starting point you'll be taken to, which is this little house, I suppose, a little bit to the west of the sign that we were just standing at when I started here. Biggest thing is you'll notice there's no sleep trigger here. So there aren't any sleep triggers that I can see on the map right now. So let's start with the description that large H gives us about what we're looking at. So he says, "Hey guys, welcome to Graystone Farm, a map set in the real-life area of Rockingham County, North Carolina. I currently live roughly 20 minutes from the area. My time driving through the area is what inspired me to recreate it." So this sounds like one of those maps that does have some potential, because there's that love of place that the modder has that should create some extra effort in making things up to snuff and something that people are going to enjoy. So he talks about there's 5 different playable farms. There's 1 grain sell point, 3 horse pastures, 4 greenhouses, and 110 playable fields. So before we go and explore the farm, let's take a look at the map within the game. So here's the map, and as you said, there's 110 playable fields. We're down here. The truck and the sign that I've got to help us get around later is down there. But you can see the fields that we own, this is new farmer mode at this point, are over here. I do have some issue with the location. I'll certainly share that as I go along. If we switch to the buy area, for example, you can see it's 115,000 and 70,000. So if you were to start in another mode where you didn't own land, if you wanted to own these areas, that's what it would cost you. So we've got these first playable locations there. I'm trying to determine where these 5 playable farms would be. This looks like a farm, so it looks like that's 143,000. This one's here, 171,000. So that's 3 farms. There's no fields here, and yeah, that includes other things, so that's something else. 348,000 with places all over the map. Here's one that looks like a farm, so that would be the 4th. 200,000. And, oh. So if you're looking for a good price, that's the best one. That one's 0, but that could be because, again, it doesn't come with any fields, so you could certainly plow something up and work there, but obviously you don't own this area. Oh, it looks like you can buy the non-buyable land, or the the common property if you wanted at some point as well, just to give you options if you wanted to expand into some of the spaces. And when we do a flying tour of the map, we'll see what we see in this large area north of us here. So once again, let me turn that off so we can kind of get our bearings. So we're down here. You can see there's a fuel station, there's a fuel station. The shop is up here, up in this location. The animal dealer is down here. And let's see, the grocery mart, okay, a grain elevator. So I'm assuming that's the grain sell point he's referring to. And okay, the greenhouses are over in this area. There's no other productions that I can see on the map here. So if you wanted to take advantage of FS22 productions, it looks like you'd need to do something separately and purchase them on your own. It's got the standard crops, which makes sense. I don't think I've seen anything yet with additional fruit. Okay, the calendar looks like the default calendar in the game. So let's take a look on purchase or sell points. So as he talked about, one grain sell point, it looks like basically everything can only be sold there. Okay, so grapes and olives can be sold at the grocery mart, which was right next to it. Sunflowers, corn, beets, cut sugar beets. Okay, we can't sell cotton. Sugar cane can be sold. Eggs can't be sold, so if you wanted to do chickens or sheep or cows, you can't sell eggs, wool, or milk, so that certainly is a challenge for playability if you're trying to do things. Silage can be sold to the animal dealer along with grass, hay, and straw. And then it looks like the grocery will buy the items if you place production buildings on the map. There's no one that will buy honey, which means if you choose to raise bees, you're going to have to basically use the honey in productions for it to be of any use. Let's see, is there anything else that's missing? You can't sell planks, but you can sell furniture. So I think the theme here is the expectation of the map maker is that you're going to make finished products. You're not going to be able to sell things in the interim. And then no sell point for manure, slurry, or digestate since there's no BGA. And you can't sell stones either, so keep that in mind if you choose to use this map, because you're either going to have to use a mod that places a stone crusher, or you're going to want to make sure you turn that off in your fields. So let's take a look at what starting equipment it's given us. There are no items, so the farm comes with nothing and just the 100,000. So that can make it a little bit interesting, because you don't have a lot of money to begin with, so this may not be a map that you want to start on new farmer mode with. You may want to choose farm manager, start from scratch so that you get more money. I'm thinking, given the area of the country we're in, that these are tobacco dryers or something like that. It doesn't look like we can interact with them. So, in fact, can we walk through them? Yes, we can. So there's no collision detection on them either. So, this is some sort of dryer as well. Also, doesn't look like we can interact with it, but it is solid at least. So yeah, maybe that's, again, just a visual, because it does look like you can load it here and unload there. So I may need to try some things out, or you may need to experiment. on if there's anything there that you can utilize actively. Okay, so some bins that are empty. Got some cover to place your material under when you, or your vehicles under them once you own them. Again, no sleep triggers here. So the map does come with something called Hobo farmhouses. I'm assuming since there are no sleep triggers, and it doesn't appear that these farmhouses are placed, that would be why. So, okay, here's a tiny house, a tent, a bench you can sleep on, or you can really take the inexpensive route and just put a doormat down here on the porch and sleep on that. So let's take a look. Doesn't look like we can remove any of these items, which I'm not a huge fan of, because basically that means these things are permanent. And so if you wanted to start a new farm, you're going to have these buildings here until there's some way to remove them in the future. But you're unable to demolish things directly, which is unfortunate, because that to me is important for playability. I don't like maps that don't let you do that. So I understand to some degree that they're looking to recreate a location, and this potentially is one of the downsides of someone who's really liking the area, the map they've created. Sometimes they want to keep things a little too pristine, but then if your style of gameplay is kind of build your own, you're going to be limited in what you can do, because if you wanted to start down in this area, maybe not with those fields that are given, you've got a shed here that you can use. You know, you've got some areas you can park in, but you've also got a lot of area that is unusable because you've got these, you know, assuming I'm right that these are tobacco dryers, you've got them spread out all over the place, but they don't do anything. It looks like we've got some sort of a sell point, I assume, given where it's at for straw and hay and so forth. Let me go back in there. Animal dealer. I'm not sure. Right, so I think this is a neighbor. Let me just verify. Yeah. So that's the neighboring farm, which again is kind of one of the second playable farms you can purchase. So you can get that group of fields for 27,000, that group of a couple for 32,000. You've got that larger set there for 282,000. But once again, if you're trying to start, you know, with a farm that you're going to build around, you've really got the one we're on, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Oh, this actually has this item there too. When we drive around, maybe we'll try to take a look and see what that is. Alright, so that's what we've got. No starting equipment, and a bunch of fields that are over on the edge. So let me change into fly mode here, and let's kind of move around that way. So you can see here, we've got some of those fields there, some of these fields here. Alright, so now that we're up here, you can see where we're at. That's the neighbor's farm with the horse pasture. We'll take a look at that in a little bit. I'm gonna drop down here a little bit because these are our fields. I'm not a huge fan of maps that promote the flat earth theory, that we can kind of get there and kind of be done. So the map maker's done something, which is better than some of the maps I've seen where at least they have something that makes it look like there's something beyond the edge. There's a few maps that don't do that. The Hastings map that I'm trying out for the large map is one of those, for example. So this is a step in the right direction, but I'd encourage the map maker to flesh this out, because I've really got no interest in working these fields when I see this, because it just takes away from any kind of immersion or feeling of enjoyment. And that, again, is my personal preference and playing style. For you, it might not be a big deal. But it's something that I'm going to point out. This field and this field, I'm not quite sure exactly what I do with that. I'm going to drive back here at one point with the truck, because I'm also curious just what happens with vehicles, because sometimes, depending on how the edges are implemented, that can also be interesting. So let's take a look at the other fields we own, which are these here. And yeah, we've got the same issue. We don't have fields that are so thin, although this one again is almost virtually unusable as well. This one I guess we could make do with. So there's our truck, there's the sign. So I guess that's actually the neighbor that is Graystone Farms. Lots of trees, so they've gone ahead and probably recreated that similar to what they've got in the real areas. The modder has talked about they've done a lot to try to recreate what's there, so a lot of the small fields. I guess my gut impression is this just seems a little repetitive. It almost seems, just the way they're placed, it almost looks like a tree farm that got abandoned and just grew. I don't know if anything could be done to make it seem a little bit more natural of a forest, but I think I've seen other maps in the past that just make you a feel of it being lived in, as opposed to just a vast expanse of trees. And maybe it's because of the, whoops, wrong key, of the height that we're at, but they just seem to be placed in rows. So maybe a little bit more randomness would give it a little bit more of a feel like a natural growth forest, which I'm assuming is what this is supposed to be. And yeah, it looks like these are 2D trees and not 3D trees, and again, because of the volume of them, that may have been done to just avoid any kind of performance issue. So you've certainly got your share, as you can see, of a lot of interesting shaped fields. So fertilize needs lime, soybeans. So let me pull up the mini map just so we can kind of see where we're at. Alright, so we'll head up this way. So I think this is the road here, where I think this was the spot that was owned by that farm. Just double check that. But I think that's the part that's owned by the farm up here, if you were to buy it. So yes, it is. We're right there. So Not anything usable that I would think would be helpful, and I think, yeah, this is the location here, so we'll head on down, see what we've got. So it's just a tiny little house here. So once again, you can see up here on the north edge, we've got a little bit of the same issue with the map. Just falling off the edge. So it would just be a lot nicer if nothing else, you know, maybe take some of these masses of trees and place them along the edge so that when you're down on the ground, which is obviously how much of the game is experienced, you are not losing sight of the edge of the world, that basically you're able to do what you need and not feel lost with the immersion. So our shop is here. Repair, this is where the grain location is. I think the grocery mart is that drop off there. So those are your sell points there. If we look again at the map, so we're up there. We've got the greenhouses we need to head down to in the southeast corner. So let's go do that. So we'll head over this way. So, you know, I mean, it's definitely laid out in a way. This was, I think, one of the other farms in the area. Kind of losing my place here. No, not yet. We've got to get further down. Okay. So it's definitely laid out, you know, in a way that feels like it's a real area, which obviously the authors told us it is. So you've got a lot of trees. You've got a lot of things you can do there. That's an interesting field kind of within the forest. I'm sure that's got a pretty interesting feel to it here. So this poor guy is growing cotton, and he's growing a crop he can't sell, according to what we saw in the beginning of the map. So I'm not going to be the one to give him the bad news, but hopefully he'll figure that out. Maybe next time he'll plant something else. Looks like we've got a church out there just all by itself, so maybe this is an area that starts to border on the town a little bit. We're obviously getting close to the edge of the map. I think those are our greenhouses there. Yep, you can see them on the other part. So yeah, there's a good amount of fields up here. So yeah, this would be one of the farms too. Yeah, that's this one here. Where the greenhouses are, actually they're included in that. So if you were to buy this, you'd be getting the greenhouses along with that. So at this point, oh, look at that. These are the special deer of Rockingham. They float. It is around Christmas time, so perhaps maybe those were Santa's reindeer kind of taking a break here before they headed back to the North Pole. I've got a little baseball field there. That's nice. Just a nice added touch. I do like things like that on the map that really are made to recreate the actual area, but don't necessarily serve a purpose other than to just give you an immersion and a feel that you're in a real place, which once again just brings me back to the disappointment of then finish the edge of the map and let us feel like this is a real location placed in a real world, and not not avoid taking the time to finish up those details. Because, you know, we've got a lot of details in here. They're just not completing things to the level that we'd like. So let me take a look here. All right. So yeah, if I try to click on any of these and demolish them, so I was correct in the beginning that, yeah, we're unable to remove any of these, which means, okay, so that's just the sheds are removable, but like these tobacco dryers, these houses, so this shed probably is removable. So anything that's a shed, I can, in a silo, okay, and you know, in that one you can see changes. This one, it won't let me. So you could clean up a few items, but not a lot of them. So let's head on over, and we'll drop out of the sky here so that we can, why will it not let me into my truck? There we go. We can just experience this on the ground a little bit, and then that will end my map tour. But basically, got a pretty basic map, which is fine. You know, it's early. People haven't had a lot of time to flesh things out. But, you know, there's certainly some gaps that would cause me some difficulty. So, you know, kind of getting into the final piece here of, would I play this map? The answer, I guess, the best I could do is a perhaps. It's intriguing enough that I might give it a go, but I know for certain I wouldn't play it as New Farmer, because even if you're, say, here in this space, and you're playing it as you normally would, where you're not in flight mode, because that's not a mode you play the game in, you look like you're in a realistic environment. Things aren't too bad, you know, even though, like I said, I mean, I think we're on the edge here of those trees, and you can see kind of the repetition of just how they're placed. Just takes away a little bit from more of a natural feeling, but it might take way too much time to change that type of thing. But it's just something that stuck out to me, certainly. Alright, this guy really wants to get by, so I'm going to let him do that. You know, we are in North Carolina, the home of NASCAR, so sometimes people just can't help but want to pass. And I know Rockingham, the city, is a big center of NASCAR. I don't know if that's in Rockingham County. I haven't done any research. I would assume it is. So, you know, maybe all these guys are getting ready to go to their Saturday night dirt track and have a good old time. But I'm just trying to drive around and take a look at what we've got. So, yeah, I mean, it's not grabbing me as something that I'd say, yeah, this is something I definitely want to do something on. But I will say, between the other maps I've seen, the main one that's been new is Hastings. This one may be a little bit more intriguing, just because it at least has some life to it. Hastings didn't even have a deer on the ground this time, as opposed to deer in the air, so that's good. Hastings didn't even have fuel stations, where here there's an acknowledgement that people live and work on this map, and to drive their vehicles they need fuel, where on a map not having enough to make it playable to begin with ends up being a challenge for me to some degree, because as I try to get friends and family into something like Farming Simulator, not everybody's comfortable with going out and getting mods and then immediately placing things all over the map to make things usable. I'm a big fan of maps that are thought out in that way, that they're livable and they're usable. So I think this one has some of that with the fields, but it's lacking that with, you know, this, like this piece here. Like, do these cars fall off the edge? I mean, they are slowing down, but luckily, yeah, they just kind of have their hovercraft capability where they can turn around in midair and get back on ground. So, you know, I guess that's where I just give this an average score, because this being the new farm, like the creator intentionally places you here at the edge, right where you can't help but see the problems immediately. And you've got to basically drive through this location here to get to your fields. Yeah, this is interesting. I'm not even sure. Yeah, there's a road over there. Basically, you've got to drive through some buildings, unless I missed something. I guess let me take a look here. I guess there is a road that sneaks around behind those tobacco dryers. So yeah, when they finish working on the interstate here, which I assume is what we're looking at there, hopefully they'll raise the ground up to the level of the surrounding town here, and that would help. But yeah, this could be interesting here. Let's see. Alright. So yeah, so this is the issue. Like, I cannot go left of this. So this is kind of what I meant with this field. Like, I have one width of a harvester, maybe two if I've just got a 6-meter harvester. It just seems strange to even have these fields at all. You know, I mean, I suppose you could have this one, but those on the edge, just because that might be what's there in reality, and this was the border that the creator chose to use, I'd suggest that maybe anything that goes off the edge of the world, especially when the edge of the world is left to be so blatantly obvious, would be left off and just basically non-existent in the playable map. So for me, yeah, if I played this map, it would not be as New Farmer, but I'm also having a really hard time because while this farm looks interesting, after about 5 minutes I need to actually work within the farm, and then all I'm left with is a bunch of buildings I can't remove and that I really can't use. So it looks like, you know, I've got a silo, an actual usable silo here. This one doesn't appear to actually function. That one is there and empty, but then everything else is just taking up valuable real estate. You know, you could do a lot here with the yard if you had the ability to use it, but there's all this stuff spread all over. So anyway, that's the map tour of Graystone, North Carolina. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of a feel for what's there. Talk to you next time.